This is the land of the Thunder Dragon, the Kingdom of Bhutan, or Druk Yul. Gross national happiness is more important than gross national product. That declaration by King Jigme Singye Wanchuk recast development in a new mold. Nevertheless, it's an idea deeply rooted in Bhutan's historical and spiritual experience. The primary objective is to make the happiness and satisfaction of the people Bhutan's first priority. Gross national product, obviously important, comes after.
The Kingdom of Bhutan's approach to development is a little different from that of most other countries. Our approach to development is based on the belief that development must result in the happiness, in promoting happiness of people. That it is the responsibility of the leaders of the state. The policy of gross national happiness was first pronounced by His Majesty the King in the early 1970s, soon after he became the king, after he ascended the throne.
The concept of the 4 pillars of gross national happiness form the guiding principle of Bhutan's future development policy.
These 4 pillars are: 1, it is equitable and sustainable socio-economic development that will promote the physical well-being, the intellectual well-being, the emotional well-being of the human being. Then you come to the environment. Located as we are in the high Himalayas, a very fragile environment, our survival depends on how we can live in harmony with nature. And so, environmental conservation is the second pillar. The 3rd pillar is cultural promotion. Culture in the broadest sense of the term. Culture with respect to the need for continuous progress of the human society. In other words, continuous civilization. There are those who believe in this regard that excessive emphasis on material development has led to the erosion of basic human values, erosion of our cultural institutions, which are so very important for the development of the human being as a civilized being. The 4th pillar is good governance. We have a king who believes that in order to promote good governance, sustained good governance for all time, the king must play a lesser part, and that it must be the people themselves who should rule and determine as to how society should grow and advance. He believes in the empowerment of the people. And so we are now in the final stages of our democratization process.
Bhutan believes that a healthy world is essential for material and spiritual happiness. Concern for the environment is anchored in Buddhist beliefs and values. The Bhutanese do more than respect nature. They recognize its living spirituality. Places are identified with deities, divinities, and other spiritual forces. In rural areas of Bhutan, Tantric Buddhism, the animistic Bön religion, and conventional Bhutanese beliefs together define nature as a living system. Since the people are part of this system, exploitation of natural resources for material gain has been undertaken cautiously by the government of Bhutan.
So when you talk about gross national happiness from, I think for a country like Bhutan, where majority of the people live in rural areas, I think it is very, very important that we look at their basic needs. If they are met without much problem, then they will be at least contented. Now in a country like Bhutan, where arable land is hardly 8%, and if the population increases very rapidly, and if there is a population explosion, there is going to be very, very serious impact on the environment. And we have to see that we fall in a region in the Himalayas, which the scientists say are ecologically very, very fragile. It cannot take too much of pressure. And most of the areas are on slopes, in the mountain slopes. And if a time comes that some of the mountain slopes have to be brought under agriculture, so you can imagine the environmental impact on our water bodies, river systems, watersheds. So therefore, population explosion will definitely have very, very serious impact on the environment. Thimphu is a very good example. Insuling is also a very good example. Growth in urban areas means it brings with it several problems: a water problem, sanitation problem. And today in Thimphu, the biggest problem urbanization has created is the garbage. How do we take care of the solid waste generated every day? Every year it is being increased by tons. How can we dispose those safely is a very, very serious problem. Today, everything is thrown in the same place. Everything is being dumped in Mimilaka landfill site. Now suppose if there are hazardous wastes which will seep through and go into the water bodies, the soil, and the impact you will know only after maybe 50 years, 100 years. So these risks are there. We have environment policy, the so-called the middle path based on the Buddhist philosophy, which says that yes, economic progress is necessary. And while doing so, on the other hand, you must, to the extent possible, minimize the damage that you do on the environment. So the policy is called the middle path. 79% of our people live in the rural areas. Now, any policy, no matter how good it is, any law, no matter how good it is, if you cannot get the support of the majority of the people, during the course of implementation, you are bound to come across problems, and you cannot get their cooperation. So in the case of environment, we have, number one, we appreciate the belief, traditional belief. Now I think, so far that our environment comparatively is in a very healthy condition compared to many other countries. I think one role played by our traditional belief and faith. For example, they say this is a lake, sacred lake, you cannot pollute. If you pollute, you will have some bad things may come to your life. Similarly, they say this rock, is the domain of so-and-so, guardian deity, etc. And similarly, even in the forest. Now, recently, like in Bhutan, in the east-west highway, the Department of Road is trying to reduce the distance. So they have planned a diversion in Bhutan, which will save about 20 odd kilometers. And everything was done. Later on, the people of Bhutan raised objection in the National Assembly. And they said that alignment goes through a rock, which is supposed to be the domain of some guardian deity, which is important for the people in Bhutan. So we had to change the alignment. So in other words, their traditional belief, we have to give due recognition.
"72% of Bhutan's area is forest. Some of the world's most endangered species live there. The environment is protected by law. Such legislation governs the conservation of natural resources, as well as the protection of wildlife and their habitats. It's the concept of gross national happiness that expresses Bhutan's will to preserve its traditions, social values, and culture. The rulers of Bhutan feel that the identity of the nation depends largely on the preservation and promotion of its people's identity. Bhutan is determined that the tight weave of its social and economic fabric will not be unraveled by the forces of modernity. For Bhutan, the key is balance. Development can be true and meaningful in the pursuit of happiness only if there is an equilibrium between material and spiritual progress. Bhutan is convinced that true development must lead to more than physical and economic well-being. It has to ensure emotional and spiritual comfort and advancement as well. Wherever we go in Bhutan, we see and meet religious people, high lamas, priests, nuns, and monks, tsangs, monasteries, kirtans, meditation hamlets, Buddhist institutes, and prayer flags dot the countryside. With widespread education, children as young as 5 and 6 have become aware of the nature of sin and the causes of harm. Even to step on an ant is a sin, according to their awakening religious conscience. On auspicious days, many people take children to visit monasteries, meditation hamlets, and kirtans, where they make offerings of butter lamps and say prayers for the well-being of all living things in the universe. As Buddhist philosophers say, culture is not a matter of objects or monuments. Culture comes from the mind, expressed in compassion for all life. The greatest challenges to this new concept for development are the challenges of globalization.
There are threats to our pursuit of gross national happiness. Bhutan is, after all, just one country among so many. We are a part of the larger world, and we have to be a responsible member of the international community of nations. Bhutanese themselves have to see themselves as citizens of a larger world. The forces of globalization are compelling. But what are these forces of globalization? And how do they threaten our pursuit of gross national happiness? Well, it appears to me that the forces of globalization are the forces of the material world. They are the forces that convert people from their religions of Christianity, Hinduism, Muslim, Jainism, Buddhism, to the worship of the goddess of wealth. I think the human individual, the human society is beginning to ask whether what we have achieved in the last century and the century before that has really contributed to making our life more worthwhile. Do we enjoy a greater degree, a level of well-being? Are we happy? And the answer, I think most people are discovering, is that no, we have not become happier. Because we have not really been pursuing happiness. We have simply been pursuing the means to happiness.
Bhutan is a Buddhist country that has been enriched by the teachings of Lord Buddha and blessed by Guru Rinpoche. Our country is fortunate to have had a wise and beloved father of the nation in the person of Shabdrung Nawang Namgyel. It is my hope and prayer that the Kingdom of Bhutan will prosper for all time. May the sun of happiness never stop shining in our country, and may the people of Bhutan enjoy everlasting peace, progress, and contentment. Bhutan is a small kingdom located between India and China, the two most populous countries in the world. It has no military might nor economic strength. The philosophy of gross national happiness expresses Bhutan's alternative approach to sustainable modernization. It has been conceived to strengthen national identity and unity and safeguard Bhutan as a sovereign nation. Gross national happiness is a legacy for future generations. Bhutan would like it to be an inspiration for the well-being of the world.